It is Monday, and I am here with the incredible, the one, the only, the three named Alyssa Farrah Griffin. Hello, Alyssa.
Hello, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing all right for a Monday. I think it's
Yeah.
been pretty good. The show was pretty smooth. Let's talk a little politics, because I think that's where we always start.
Yeah.
President Trump did a wide-ranging interview with NBC's Kristen Welker.
Mm-hmm.
What were your big takeaways from some of the things he said? A lot of headlines out of this.
A lot of headlines. By the way, Kristen Welker is a dear friend of mine. She's such a good interviewer, and I can't help. Trump sat down with her quite a few times.
Yeah.
And I can't help but think, I think he respects her even though she challenges him, and I can't put my finger on what it is, because usually reporters who challenge him don't get interviews.
They don't get a second one.
Yeah. But she's a fabulous interviewer. The stuff that stood out to me is recession economy, because my husband and I went down to Florida for the weekend, and I really got to tune out politics, but just in the course of catching up with friends there, you kind of hear what people are thinking about and care about. And what didn't come up is Signalgate. A little bit around immigration, but everyone is like, what is going on with the economy? Are we going to have a recession? What's this trade war going to do, or deals coming,
Right.
and that kind of thing. And so what stood out to me was just sort of how passive he was when asked about predictions around a recession, and that we're now, almost a month out from this big, what he called Liberation Day announcements around tariffs. He's had to roll a lot of them back, but they haven't announced any major trade deals yet. So I think there's just a nervousness that people have, and that there wasn't more of an effort to explain what your plan is, because I'm not sure that there is one there, and just to simply ease fears.
The bad stuff is the Biden economy. The good stuff is the Trump economy.
It feels like a child. It feels like me arguing with my husband. Like, no, the good stuff was me, the bad stuff was you. Like, it's like not even real life. And I actually loved SNL was kind of on fire this weekend. He's like, we're changing recession to recess. It's shorter, it sounds happier, but like that's kind of the mode they're in. There's not really an explanation of those of us who lost a good amount of money, how they're going to get it back.
SNL also had an executive order where he would make the last clue in connections easier in the New York Times. That spoke to me. I was like, all right, I like that.
You're like,
yeah.
I appreciate that.
I could get on board for the purples being easier.
So I think that stood out to me, because at the end of the day, I think voters elected him around securing the border and around bringing down the cost of living. And as of right now, I can't honestly argue that he is in any way bringing down the cost of living. He had claimed that grocery prices are down nearly across the board. They're not. The only one bright spot on the economy is energy, but I think we're only going to see everything from clothing to food to what you need, to buying a used car. Those prices are going up.
Well, and it feels like we're still in the prefaces of things about to.
That's the thing too, is we're definitely not feeling the pain of the tariffs yet. The big thing is this is say the White House comes out, and I suspect they will have some trade deals to announce. They've been working on one with India. They've been working on some others. That doesn't change the fact that you created massive market uncertainty.
Yeah.
So what that means is, if you're a business doing business in America, you're not planning for what might come. You're planning for right now, which means you're not going to hire more people. You're not going to invest more money. You're not going to be expanding your business, because you just can't guarantee that you're going to have that profitability there. And I think we're really going to start feeling consequences of these actions in around June. It's similar to what I had said around Doge too, where it's like we had the scary headlines, but you're only starting to feel the impacts. And even those, I think, may be much further down the road. Things like research grants being pulled back, and like medical grants to universities. So there's a lot of uncertainty, but the one thing I keep hearing from people is the economy, and he simply didn't have an answer on it.
Your former boss, former Vice President Mike Pence, received the JFK Profile Encourage Award. And in his speech, he invoked the Constitution and said it's what binds us all together. What did you make of this? That can't have been a coincidence, invoking the Constitution with all these other conversations happening
coming
right
off
now.
of exactly that same interview with Kristen Welker, we talked about it on the show. Trump was basically asked, like, do you have to follow the Constitution? He said, I don't know. I think it was very deliberate. Pence is thoughtful and deliberate in his words. He spends a lot of time writing his speeches, going over them, and he chooses his words with deliberation, which is actually kind of the opposite of Donald Trump. I thought it was beautiful. And the Kennedys made the point of saying, we don't necessarily, Jack Schlossberg posted about it because he was there, we don't necessarily agree with Pence on policy, but we agree on the fundamentals of upholding the Constitution. And that's what's always made our country great, is leaders. There was at least this mutual belief that we were fighting for the same things. We may have had different ideas of how to get there, but the fundamentals of America we agreed on. I've always said I think history will remember Mike Pence much more fondly than maybe the immediate aftermath. I think we're kind of seeing what it looks like when you have people around you who aren't putting the Constitution first and who think the oath they took is to a politician rather than to the laws that bind us.
Do you feel like you wish he had spoken more than he has, or do you feel like he's done as much as he can, or what do you think? I mean, someone who knew him so well.
I waffle because I saw he got some criticism that he never invoked Trump's name when receiving this award.
Right.
I know that was by design, and not by design because he's afraid of Trump coming after him.
No, he doesn't seem fearful.
He wanted to make it bigger. He wants I think that there's this sense of like everything with Trump almost starts to feel smaller, and like the American presidency is bigger than him. And it was clear who he's talking about when he's making, no one is above the law and we have to uphold the Constitution. I go back and forth. I feel pretty strongly that when people leave office that they need to give some space to breathe to whoever comes after them. But he's been more active in recent months. He had a major op-ed in the Wall Street Journal around what basically Trump could learn from his first term, some of these things that he completely changed his policy positions on. He's been really vocal on foreign policy, specifically like aid for Ukraine, being tough and firm on Iran. So I feel like he's choosing certain fights, but he's never going to be the person that gets bogged down in like reacting to everything that Trump says.
Well, I can't leave that moment that you said there hanging, because of course we are going to have the former president and the former first lady on the show Thursday to react to among other things, what's happening with the Trump White House. Is there something that you are looking to hear from President Biden about that?
Well, it's an honor that it's a huge honor that he's coming to us first.
For the first interview,
first post-presidential interview. I'm still kind of workshopping specifically what I'm going to ask, but I want to hear from him. Listen, I understand he's going to have criticisms of Trump in the first 100 days. We all do. We've had them at our table. I'm honestly a little more interested to hear his reflections on his decision around stepping down, deciding not to run, if he still thinks that's the right decision, what he thinks Democrats could have done differently. Because while it's worthy to hear what he thinks of what Trump is doing wrong, he did play a role to some degree in Trump being reelected. So I'd love to hear, now that it's been, 100 days in office, but almost 6 months since he was elected, how he feels of, is there something he could have done differently? Are there policies he could have prioritized more to give Americans more confidence to go a different direction?
Sure.
I'll be very curious about that. But can I say one thing?
Yeah, of course.
It's an honor that we have him, and I'm looking forward to it. I think that there may be a feeling in the Biden camp of wanting to react to sort of the criticisms of him that are very much out there right now. Should he have stepped aside sooner? That sort of thing. My advice would be, not that they're asking for it, history tends to remember figures when they leave office much better when you give it some breathing time. So think of Jimmy Carter, the Malaise era. He lost re-election. He was a one-term president. Within a decade, he was one of the most beloved figures in American life. He dedicated himself to Habitat for Humanity. Everything was about charity. I think that for almost every post-president, George W. Bush, like Joy Behar cannot admit that she would love him if she met him today, because now he's writing books about immigrants' contributions to America. Like, when you step back, I think the arc of history remembers people a lot better. And I think history will remember Biden more fondly than this immediate aftermath, and you might get in the way of your legacy and trying to win the news of the day.
Sure. I also think that it's hard to let other people write your legacy when you feel like you still have something to say about it. So
totally.
That's a tough thing too.
I don't know how people. I don't know how anyone would navigate that.
Yeah. Speaking of someone whose legacy is still being written, today we were talking about the White House's social media accounts and the very strange or different strategy they're taking, such as posting an AI-generated image of President Trump as the new Pope, and also the Star Wars on May the 4th, presenting him as a chiseled Sith Lord.
I know. I like how they chiseled him for that, but not for the Pope. The Pope is very he did not take Ozempic.
They included an entire post about how he was the real rebels and that the left was the empire. But then they gave him a red lightsaber. Yeah. I mean, someone.
They didn't even get the.
They gave him the bad guy weapon.
Yeah. If you're gonna meme, you got to do it right.
Exactly.
Okay. So, giving them a little bit of credit, I appreciate, and I've said this about the new media briefings. In theory, it's smart. How people consume information is different, where they're consuming it. We live in a memified culture. We live into something you could tweet out the most thoughtful, on this day we signed this EO. No one will pay attention. But if you do something grabby and catchy that people talk about, they will. I'll give them that. But the content of it feels like it's catering to like the 30% of the country that like owns a red hat and is going to be with Donald Trump no matter what he says. And it's like forgetting about how the majority of the country sees things.
Right.
There was this like famous, they did like I like ASMR videos. They help like put me to sleep. They did like an ASMR video of like migrants in chains. Oh. I don't know a person who was like, I like this. Like, I don't know who that content is for, right, left, or center. And then even bigger than that, and especially because DOD is now emulating it. So the Pentagon, like, official handle is starting to, like, do meme-ified stuff. The world is watching. Those accounts, I would argue, are actually almost even more for the, like, global audience than the domestic audience. And so, like, what are we signaling
It reminds
with that?
me of, like, North Korea and stuff. It's weird.
So some feels like that, and then the other just feels like so beneath the office and so unserious. Like, I'm sorry, like Keir Starmer's not tweeting out like him as the Pope. Like Macron is not doing that. Like, I just wish there was a certain dignity that maybe went into those things.
Right. I mean, and like, you know, I'm trying to remember, like, you know, when President Biden would do like the dark Biden stuff and things like that. But was that on the White House?
It might have been, but
I don't know.
That's kind of an example of like, I'm okay with memeing. I think Pence even did some occasionally, but like with an intention and maybe tied to a policy and a purpose.
Right.
But just sort of like, yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to something more fun. We have a listener question here from Shelley in Louisiana. She says, "Hi, Alyssa. I love you on the show. Your job is centered on politics. You have to talk about it every single day. I'm curious what you do when you're at home or not at work to escape the political world. Are you one of the ones that does unplug?"
Yes. So thank you, Shelley. Great question. I have made a huge point since the election to unplug as much as I can from politics and news to still be able to prepare to do this job every day. And what I mean by that is I was like unhealthy during the election. You wanted to know, because it's such a like rat race. Right. You want to know the stats this day, who's doing what. Like I couldn't look away from social media, from breaking news, because you feel like, okay, this might change things. Once Trump won, I made just for my own mental health and my happiness, and honestly, like making sure I'm prioritizing things I love other than politics. When I leave here, I almost always work out after the show. I tend to then do like some of my non-view related work that is somewhat political and following the news, but it's not the doom scrolling. And then I check out in the evening. Like I'm not watching political news. I am watching Housewives or like, what am I watching now? Your Friends and Neighbors show. I think that it's also a reminder doing this job that if you are too in the politics and political news, you can lose focus of how other people are consuming that information, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Because I check in with like friends of mine who aren't in politics, and they're not following every detail of it the way we are. So then I can almost misinform myself by being like, oh, I think people really care about this. And it's like, no, let's
maybe they don't.
Think of the macro things they care about,
That's
which
right.
The one thing, my neighborhood, my friends in Florida, the economy, everyone cares about it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, you just mentioned some things you're watching. Let's go through it. What are you loving right now?
Mobland, which you would like.
I think I would like that.
It's Tom Hardy, who both Joy Behar and I have a huge crush on.
Yes.
Pierce Brosnan, Helen Mirren, excellent cast, and it's one of the rare shows that my husband and I both like.
Oh, that's great.
He's like you. His genre is basically like mafia movies or like crime adjacent kind of things.
I enjoy that.
The occasional like World War II, but this was one that it like kind of has everything that I like in it. And I'm enjoying Your Friends and Neighbors with John Hamm. We had Olivia Munn and Amanda Peet on for it. It's. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah.
Yeah. The concept is basically a suburban neighborhood, not unlike the one I moved to, where a marriage falls apart because the partner of 20 years finds his wife cheating with one of his best friends, and he decides to then gets fired, resorts to a life of crime to like fund his lifestyle and keep up with the Jones. It's really well done. It's just a little bit sad. Just the idea to me of like a marriage breaking up at that point and like losing the job. So I'm like waiting for John Hamm to get a win in it, and he hasn't really gotten one yet in the show. So we're waiting.
I spend a lot of time wondering when John Hamm's going to get a win. You know, there's a guy
who's had it so tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that is one that I've been liking, and then obviously my Bravo rotation.
I'm loving the studio, which we had the cast on.
So
for.
good.
So good.
But I think that'll win Emmys.
I think so too.
Very good.
I'm really enjoying that.
I'm also loving Hacks, but I don't know if you're up to date. I think this season might stress you out because it's like a little too close to The View.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because now Deborah's hosting late night,
right? Which is another one of my passions. So
yes.
there you go. Yeah.
Even watching it, my husband's like, "Oh wow, this is like being at The View." They've got like the warm up comedian, then they've got like oh, we need this person in the like this demo, like let's go get Kristen Bell. Like it felt like producing an episode of our show, and then all the hijinks and stress that comes with it.
Well, much like you, I try to avoid things that are really stressful when I'm like trying to decompress. So like there are things I watch with my wife. We watch like Only Murders when it's on, and
Only
fun
Murders
things.
is so feel good.
Yeah, feel good stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely. I tend to go back to like old shows I love. I'll rewatch The Sopranos and The West Wing for the 50th time.
I feel very strongly. My husband thinks it's weird. I would rather rewatch shows that I believe are excellent than try something new that's like average. I did The Sopranos recently. I'm actually still kind of rewatching it. Re-upped Homeland recently. Like
Homeland's so good. The first couple seasons. Yeah.
If a show's that good and if you give it a few years, you don't realize how much you forget, and it's like enjoying it all over again.
Right, because the last thing I need to do, you're right, I don't want to watch cable news at all when I get home. So, and then I've got kids too, so I'm trying to like reintroduce them to things that I love coming up, and we watch, like my daughters have an unbelievable 80s repertoire of
I was
movies
thinking, like
and stuff.
Goonies, have they seen?
Goonies
Yeah.
and E.T. and Back to the Future and all that kind of stuff
Everything 80s and 90s like just makes me feel better right now, like any of those movies.
There you go. All right, well, so we have Mormon Wives is coming back on Hulu, and some of them are coming to the show next week. Yes, Layla and Jesse will be on with us next week. You were a big fan of the first season, right?
Yes, and I was kicking myself because when we had them last time, I'd only watched one episode, and I wasn't totally sold on it. They were great guests, and it was fun. Then I watched the whole thing, and I was like, this is reality TV perfection. There's something in the water in Utah because Real Housewives of Salt Lake City is also arguably like the best Housewives franchise. But yeah, the trailer alone looks excellent and very juicy. You've got divorces, you've got cheating, you've got a lot of just different allegations and things out there, and estrangements and friendships that came back. So I'm very curious to see where it takes us.
This is why it's important to dig into your guests before they get here, because this has happened to me too, where like I've had people on.
They send us the whole one. Sometimes they only send us one episode.
Okay. I've been here too, where we've had people on the show, and I'm like, oh, okay, these guys are on the show today. And then a week after they're on the show, I am obsessed.
Oh, the other one that happened to, why I'm blanking on everything. The Jackal. Oh, Eddie Redmayne. Like one of my biggest crushes. I'd watched one episode and I was like, it's good. I became obsessed with that show. It's like, it's fantastic. It's no notes. He should win awards.
Yeah. And
I was kicking myself that because I would have been so excited if I got to do the interview on the other end of it.
We had the guys from Daredevil on, and the same thing for me. Like I'm a comic book guy. I'd never seen the show. I watched Daredevil after they were here and went back and watched all the old Netflix shows and stuff. And now I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I was there with Daredevil and Kingpin and nothing happened.
I know. I'm still jealous that Sunny got Eddie Redmayne for her birthday.
All right, well,
it was like a book. It just happened that way, booking wise. But I'm like, lucky.
You had Hanson last year. That was a big day.
True. That is true.
All right. We have another question from Marianne. Alyssa, I'm around your age and I'm struggling with my social life and my friend group changing. A lot of my friends have started having kids and I don't have children. My friends are just a lot busier now, and it's been hard to adjust to this new part of life where they aren't free to hang out. Have you gone through this at all, and how have you dealt with it?
I relate to this so much, and I actually appreciate getting the question because we've done the topic on the show and no one else seems to relate to it. I do think I'm the least outgoing of like the most introverted of the hosts, but I have really in recent years struggled with like making new friends. And it's the same thing. My core group of friends, they all have kids. They all have multiple kids, and they're in just like that slightly different phase in life. And I find like I've been trying to plan a girls trip for 6 months, and it's so hard with their calendars. And you would think probably like with my jobs, like she's the busy one, but it's when you don't have kids, it's a different world. I think the best advice probably is find something to get involved in. Like I'm involved in a local charity. Like that was a way to get to know people in my community. Even if it's like a class that you take regularly, like a workout or a soul cycle, that could be like, I think you have to put yourself places to meet new people. And if you have colleagues, don't sleep on becoming friends with your colleagues. Like, to be honest, most of my like new friends in recent years have been at the show, producers. But I find I felt a major switch after I turned 30. There was like the fun, everyone's getting married, we're all at each other's weddings, we're all doing big trips. And then it really does change when people have kids. Yeah, no, and I don't know that there's an answer to that. It's just people in different stages of life. And give people grace. It does not mean that they love you any less or they're going to be there for you any less, like if you need them. But that's something. And I even have girlfriends in the core group who aren't married yet. And then that's another feeling too of like, they don't have a partner yet. And just, I think being deliberate about reaching out to people, but also trying to meet new people.
I find the older I am, the more I fall back on old friendships.
Totally agree.
More than ever before. You know, I'm hanging out with my friends from high school, like in a way that I never imagined I would in my late 40s.
Yeah, for me, it's the 20. Like my friends in my 20s are my forever friends, and it's like there's just a bond that's never going to break there.
Yeah.
But I don't see them as much as I'd like.
No. All right. Well, look, call Alyssa. Come on,
call
guys.
me.
What are you doing? All right. Thank you for joining me today, Alyssa.
Yes.
Tomorrow, I'll be back with Sarah Haynes, and we'll see you then.